Good evening, Canterbury. Welcome to Newsmakers Extra. The local body elections are less than 6 months away, and the fleet of prospective candidates for public office will soon be lining up. The earthquake at ECAN has certainly added a new dimension to election season. Joining us to discuss a swathe of civic issues are three incumbents from City Hall. Councillors Helen Broughton, Bob Shearing and Chrissie Williams. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mike.
Good, thank you. We will begin with the government's requisition of ECAN and all that is entailed there. Did the government have to act so dramatically, and do you support the suspension of democracy? Bob?
Probably acted a lot differently than I would have thought they would have done. Yes, I wasn't expecting them to take that action. Given the changes that have been made at ECAN, I thought that was probably enough to satisfy some of the concerns that are out there. Absolutely, so I was surprised they took that action.
Do you support the loss of democracy for the time being?
That's a difficult one. Until we see what who the commissioners are, I don't think we've got a say in the matter anyway. So obviously, whether I do or don't, I don't think that's an issue. The issue now is working with whatever we've got there to see whether we can make a difference.
Where do you stand, Helen?
The question again is, Mike?
Do you support the suspension of democracy?
No.
Why not?
And I'm really concerned about how it's been done. There was special legislation passed through the House under urgency, which I'm against. The local government minister, Mr Hyde, from what I understand, has gone outside the Local Government Act, and he did have the powers in the Local Government Act to suspend the council. And that might have been a more appropriate move if he had used the Local Government Act. He went outside it, and he's also brought in attack on water conservation orders, and he's also, which I'm particularly concerned about, has legislated the mayors rather than councils to be the authority that the commissioners work with, and that is deeply disturbing.
Chrissie, just coming back to Bob's point, I mean, Bob was clearly taken by surprise by the scale of change on the government's part. Were you surprised they went as far as they did?
No, because when Nick Smith came and talked to the council in mid-March, I got very clearly from him that his recourse was to dismiss the council. He was reluctant to put in a commissioner just for water and still have the council there because of the two-head approach. And I'm pretty sure he was clear to me that he was going for option 3, even at that stage.
I understand that you have submitted two notices of motion for the next council meeting. What's all this about?
Yeah, I have submitted 2 notices of motion. Currently, I haven't got a seconder named. I certainly have seconders waiting to second it. It's in 2 parts. The first part is retrospective. It's to say we don't agree with the statements the ministers made about the councils supporting what they were doing, and don't support the Mayor's letter to the ministers because it didn't comply with the No Surprises agreement with the other councils, and particularly with Environment Canterbury. The second part is looking forward, and it's saying, it's what Helen referred to, there's a section in the new Act that says that the commissioners need to talk with the mayors, and my notice of motion says that if the mayor is going to give advice to the commissioners, he should have a resolution from council before he does that. So we get away from the mayor taking on this presidential style of making statements as a mayor without consulting the council.
You know full well that Bob Parker was going to say this is petty politics from 2021. Is he not?
He may say that, but I think the interesting thing for me is the way that the motion's been worded is how the councillors will vote. And we'll certainly have divisions on it, and it'll see where people stand with local democracy and the mandate that people have for speaking on behalf of council.
Bob, something that struck me from one of the big public meetings this week was the Huranui Mayor, Gary Jackson, made it quite clear that throughout this whole process following the Mayor's letter going to Wellington, his council were in the tent. There were resolutions passed. The Mayor was not speaking on behalf of Huranui. Do you have concerns as to how Christchurch City has been presented?
Well, as I say, I'm concerned that we we haven't had any say in the matter, for sure. And that's what I say, the issue now is how we work forward and how we work with these people to make things happen. And I fully support the position that Chrissie's in, that we need to get some dialogue going now with whoever it is that's put in place to be able to set up a framework that we have some say in what's going ahead. And I think, I generally agree that it can't just be one person, obviously. It does have to be the council, it does have to be the city.
Do you think Bob Parker has overreached?
Can I say here, and I've had information that came through yesterday, that I believe it's likely that central government was always working towards this. A forum took place in December 2008 at the beginning of the national government, and key national cabinet ministers met with irrigators. From what I've heard since, I understand that the mayors may have discussed problems with Mr Hyde, and when they wrote that letter, I think probably central government was moving towards this anyway. So it could be that the mayors are just a pawn.
Have they been used?
Well, they could be a pawn. I'll say could be. A pawn, and in fact, a central government agenda.
One question that does seem to be on the mind of some ratepayers, how many is unknown, is why should I pay rates if I've lost my voice? Is it an understandable question to be asking oneself, Bob?
Oh, I guess it probably is, of course, and we all begrudge paying rates, and so, but the issue is you're really not paying rates for the elected service you get, you're really paying rates for the actual physical services you get, and so that really doesn't change. But how that's apportioned, and I assume that there'll be some changes in how the spending of those rates get spent.
Okay. What we'll do is we'll take a break. We've got lots of civic issues to look at with our panel. We'll have a look at transport and also the annual plan shortly. Do stay with us.
Thank you.